Actually,
Okay, I'm ready to go now.
I've got the best way to start out any kind of episode where I just ask you.
So now the question was,
Yeah, what's the question?
how am I surviving in this? How am I doing in this COVID thing?
Right.
Like I say, in November when it started, I had just started writing a screenplay. I had an idea for a screenplay, so I started writing it. And then COVID hit, and they said sequester. So when I write, I just like lock myself in, and I try to. I'm an instant gratification guy. I got to get to the end. I got to finish it. So I thought, well, that's kind of cool. So I sequestered myself.
On order.
And I just stayed in the house for like a month or two.
Yeah.
I just went out for supplies, typing paper, printing paper and food. And that was it. So I got a lot of done. And then I finished it. I was so locked in because of the COVID thing. And nobody was calling, nobody was going out. I would do a Zoom thing once a week. So I finished it in 6 months, which is pretty fast for a screenplay. And I started another one because COVID was still on. And then about 3 weeks ago, I finished the second one. So I wrote 2 screenplays in a year, which is very, very fast. Generally, they take about a year each, at least.
When did you first start writing? I mean, obviously.
That's when COVID hit me in the realization of, wow, man. I mean, I have nothing to do now. I mean, I've forgotten what it was like to go out at night. Where do you go? I mean, there's no plays, there's no theater, there's no movies, there's no stand-up, there's no open mic nights. There's, everything that I used to do, either dates or just spend time. And I didn't have any books ready. I had all my books packed away. So I was going nuts. I still am. So I started to do a couple of different projects is what I did. But so basically what I'm saying is I tried to avoid or ignore COVID, but I do ride my bike, once a day just to get some exercise.
Your health is good.
I got gray hair, and COVID is not friendly to gray hair. So
is that what it is?
That's my worry. When I go bike riding, I just avoid people. And now the population has PTSD about this because there are now protocols on the street which never happened before COVID. People would either, if I'm wearing a mask and they're not, either they walk out onto the street around for me to be polite, or I walk around the street, into the street around them, and they totally accept it. Or they look away when they're passing if they don't have a mask on, and it's weird out there, man. And nobody, if you're like with your roommate, I guess you don't have to. But here's the weird thing. Now comes the weird stuff. Like you see a man and a wife walking down the street towards you. She has a mask on, he doesn't. I can't figure that shit out. Or here comes somebody with a mask only over their mouth and their nose. So, I mean, come on, people.
It's bizarre.
Just like species up, okay?
Right.
This is a species thing. It's not there's no more Homo sapiens or human beings. We're a goddamn species. Admit it. A lot of species are wiped out by this.
One of the things that.
Oh, wait a minute! I didn't put my.
You got to put your headphones on.
I'm just talking here. I can't even.
Right? No, I dig it.
There you go.
I was going to say that I asked you maybe a year ago or before the COVID, because obviously you were pretty engaged by all the stuff that was happening in the world and voicing your opinion. And you said, this is the worst time I've ever lived in. I kind of took issue. I think I asked you, you've lived through a lot. I mean, there was a war going on, in the 60s, you were part of the counterculture, Nixon, all these other things. You said, no, it's worse now. That kind of stunned me. So I guess it's been pretty bad.
Well, I don't remember exactly the conversation. I remember talking to you, but
Right.
I would say that if that's what I said, because I mean I do say those kind of things.
Right. Right.
It hasn't gotten any better.
Mm.
So maybe it's changed as to what's different about it. But I mean, because of the COVID now, I mean, not only I think it's over 1 million people all over the world and 300,000. So that means that the United States has 1/3 of all the deaths from COVID on this planet.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's wild. Have you any of your screenplays or any of your new projects have anything to do with?
Well, I mean, it doesn't. I've been doing a lot of podcasts during the year. That was my only out and my only actually savior was doing
Right.
podcasts because that you don't have to leave the house. First of all, you just do it on the air, like Zoom things.
Right.
So I've been doing like over, I don't know, maybe 200 over the year. I just millions of them. And and I have this cameo thing where you wish people happy birthday and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that kept me busy in that I would have to do, like every morning I'd have to do these cameo things.
Right.
Happy birthday, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Happy St. Swithin's Day. I mean, they come up with weird stuff to celebrate. Yeah. And so that kept me busy. But because the COVID thing has shut everybody in, the cameo things heightened. I got more because people couldn't see each other, so they were sending a lot of birthdays, a lot of Thanksgivings, a lot of how you doings.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped me, but that was about the only good thing. Oh, and then these other projects. So because of the podcast that I did, so many, I decided to do my own podcast.
Oh, good.
I'm a talker. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
And so one of the podcast guys, the Three Geeks guys, I don't know if you know them, but they do a Three Geeks podcast.
Oh, yeah. I know who those guys are.
They're really cool.
Yeah.
So those guys, and then there was another one, the Prime Edition or something like that, the Great Edition something. Those two podcast guys, of all the others that were really great, I coupled up with the Three Geeks guys, and so we're doing I guess it's a Patreon thing where you pay for a podcast.
Sure. Or you could.
Okay, so I'm doing one of those of my life. It's a biography of my life, mainly in show business, but it has my childhood and how I got into show business and college and on up.
Is that out yet? Have you started?
No, it won't be out. We're just doing it now. We do an hour a week, and they record it on Zoom. And they mentioned Patreon.
Okay, cool.
Which is what we was aiming for. Or we could just do a book, because we're recording it. I mean, it's being recorded. So we could either do a book on tape from that, or but it'll be finished in about the end of January.
Good. I mean, I've always said that your life is, first of all, you're not a nostalgic guy, and if you are, you like to stay very present and do whatever you're doing now. And I think that probably explains why you're a youthful dude.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that you're just a very
Oh, I guess because I'm present. Because
present.
I see things around me and I talk about that.
You're not an alta cocker.
Oh.
That's what I mean.
Well, I was just talking about this the other day to somebody because they were saying, I'm a storyteller,
right.
But is there, they were talking about the downside of it.
Right.
And the downside of it is I was walking out yesterday, and this discussion happened yesterday, but I was also outside, doing my daily walk because, sure. I mean, you got to exercise. I mean, it's just being inside all the time. I know what prison is like now. So I passed these two little, they weren't old ladies, but they were elder ladies. Very nice, just housewives, something like that. Maybe one was a grandmother, something like that. And they were just sitting on a ledge on the side of the sidewalk, and they were just talking, And I was walking slow, just ambling along. And so I heard part of their conversation, and it was just conversation. It was just like office talk. It was about nothing. And I felt so jealous. So they were so relaxed. And so, nothing was bothering them. They weren't thinking about politics or religion or no critical thinking there. They were just, talking about a daughter or something, a relative, and maybe cooking something. And it was a pleasure. I slowed down as I walked by just to hear nothing. It was a pleasure.
It's a nice thing just to learn to be silent,
sociable, right. just and I can't do that. And then so that was the conversation I had with somebody about that conversation. I said, I can't do that if there's something not cogent. I really get antsy. I want to talk about stuff
that's happening now. Well, what I meant is that you're not. Are you as comfortable as talking about working as a lifeguard in Far Rockaway Beach? All right, it's cool. Have you ever been recognized just from being in New York, like out in LA? No one knows you from like the person who recognizes you might not be a showbiz type or referencing a show that you've been on. And like, did you ever live in Far Rockaway?
Well, every once in a while, they're rare. But I do get it. Like, hey, remember Sheldon Thaler? We were friends in Far Rockaway when I was a kid, and now he's grown up. He's got a family. He took me out to dinner.
Wow.
So I haven't seen him in 1,000 years. I haven't seen him since must have been that was public school. Public school. How old were you in public school? 15, 16? I don't know.
Up until 18.
So I haven't seen him since then.
Wow.
And I saw him like it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And he happened to be in California. He said, I don't know, maybe he looked me up or Googled me or God knows what. I don't know. He called me and he said, hey, I'm in town. You want to have dinner with me? So yeah, I had dinner, and we just talked about the old days, and I told his kids a couple of show business stories. They liked it, and his wife, oh, hey, oh, you with Clint Eastwood? Wow, man, that's so cool. So every once in a while, but always it's in recognition of something, and that's a downer because Marlon Brando turned me on to it in an interview. I mean, I didn't talk to him, but I read it in an interview.
What did he say?
He said it was very hard, about the downside of being a star, and that was that, his whole thing of being an actor was observing people. Mm-hmm. Being unknown and observing, and he can't do that anymore because he's a star, and same thing with me. I mean, now I go to this mall sometimes and I'll read a paper if there's not too many people around and I can just sit by myself, but people recognize me and they want to talk about show business, and I don't want to talk about that, so I have to be rude, hey, I'd rather read my paper, thank you very much.
Oh, wow.
So it's there's an upside and a downside to everything. I mean, there's no free ticket, no free lunch.
No.
Oh no, I gotta hang up. I gotta stop this. We're gonna.
Hey.
Okay.
All right.
I turned it off.
Did you see that Marlon documentary? That was fantastic. It was called Listen to Me, Marlon. It was on, I think.
Oh no, I didn't. Well, I didn't know. I didn't know what to make of it. It was just him talking to himself.
Well, no, I mean,
recording himself.
I think they took audio from like a million interviews that he did, and just put it as the voiceover during the documentary on the screen.
I misunderstood what it was about.
Yeah, no, it was totally cool because it talks about Stella Adler and all these people in New York City.
Oh wow!
I mean, it's before your time. But when did that guy start coming on your radar? Did you see On the Waterfront in the movie theater?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then he was famous by
Right.
the time I got around to getting him on my radar. So, I mean, it was just there, I just da da da, boom, Marlon
Right.
Brando. And no, I don't. I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman. I don't know if you even know about that.
Well, I mean that your friends were on that show. Were you on that
Well,
show?
they weren't my friends then. I was just in the committee and I would just watch them. I would leave parties to go see Mary Hartman. So I'm not a fan of people.
Right.
And the second thing I was a fan of was Breaking Bad. And that's the only two things I've ever been a fan of where I followed it.
Wow.
Other than that, no, I wasn't a fan of Marlon Brando. I mean, he's great and I watched his movies, but I wasn't a fan. I liked him.
Right.
He's a great actor. So I would read every once in a while, I'd read an interview, but I wasn't focused on him.
But Breaking Bad, man, I mean, that's how I reached out to you initially, because I knew about your history of the committee and I wanted to talk about that. But I probably binge watched that entire series in a month and a half and was physically and emotionally sick at the end of it.
Yeah, that was like me typing. I mean, you forget to eat. I was smoking too much. I mean, yeah, it ultimately, I will not write that way again. You lock yourself in and you just don't go out. I mean, because of the COVID and because of my instant gratification to finish this thing. Yeah, you get unhealthy.
Yeah. Did you have a good time shooting Breaking Bad?
Oh, I loved it. It was very hard for me because he kept. See, there's the other downside, which has nothing to do with anything except me and my dyslexia. I'm a dyslexic.
Okay.
And I also have ADHD, and I have a little touch of a couple of other things like COD and stuff like that. So it's very hard. I basically misinterpret the world. And that's why I'm so funny, because when I say it comes out funny, but I don't read. I guess that's a social thing. I don't read social signals.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore I've been rejected or got into trouble for misinterpreting what somebody was saying or doing.
Right.
That I got into trouble. And so I stopped socializing because I didn't get a good feedback. I was just getting mistakes and stuff. So yeah, that affects how people come up to me. And like, I'm a quote unquote famous person. I'm semi-demi famous, but I misinterpret anybody that comes up to me, why they're doing this and on what level I should meet them on. Is this a friend? Is this a fan? Is this social? Are they arguing with me? Are we being friendly? It's very hard for me, unless I know somebody for a long time. And then I get what they're doing.
So how's that impact you? I think.
Oh, so yeah. Breaking Bad.
I'm exactly like you.
That was what, because I was such a fan of it, and I was so high about even getting your audition. I wasn't even thinking about getting the role. I mean, I was just honored to that they wanted me to audition, and I'm not like that. So that made me a fan. I don't care about other things, but this I did. But when I got there, and here's what I was talking to, Vince Gilligan is a hero of mine because he's such a great writer and a creative person. So he's like a hero of mine. But he liked my performances and other things he's seen. So that's why I was invited to audition, And when I got there, he liked me, quote, so much, my acting,
yes,
that he had the writers write me long speeches. And I have dyslexia, and I can't do that. And if I am asked to do that, and if I wanted to it bad enough, like on Breaking Bad, then it takes me a very long time to learn it. I can learn lines. I've never been fired for going up on lines or forgetting lines, but I always tell the people in front, I have to get the script sooner than later. I have to get it along with everybody else who gets the script first. or else, and I tell them I'm dyslexic. It's hard for me to memorize lines, and they always do it.
Right.
They always get the script sooner. I can memorize it because I spend the time. But when I got to Breaking Bad, he would just, because other actors are not like me, so they don't know about me and my problems. So Vince would say, hey, write him a speech. You know, he's a good actor, write him a speech. And it would just fuck me up, man, when I would get to the set.
Right.
And so I'll give you a perfect example. You know, my first job on Breaking Bad was protecting the Winnebago from the cop because there was drugs in there or remnants of drugs in there. And Brian and Aaron were in there. The characters were in there. So I had to keep the cop from going in there. And I only had 5 lines for the audition. And it was 5 lines for the scene I did in the morning, which was Brian and me, him selling it to me or giving it to me. In the afternoon, I was going to keep the cop out. So it was only 5 lines for the audition. And now I show up for the afternoon, and there on my desk, in my dressing room, is a speech, a page long, from the top of the page to the bottom. And it would take me a week and a half to memorize that. And I have 2 hours before the shoot. And everything went well for the 5 lines I had in the morning. So everybody was, you know, high about, oh, well, it's going to be another easy shoot with Larry. Cool, that's fun. And I wouldn't cop to I wouldn't cop to the fact that I couldn't memorize it. Just so, you know, you're up. I go, okay, fine. I try to look for Vince. I want to talk to Vince about this, but he wasn't there. So I wanted to talk to the writer. And the AD told me the director wrote it. So I had no way to run because he had to direct it. And so I figured out that, okay, if I can't memorize it, because I'm not going to admit that I can't, I broke it down in my head and I figured, okay, if they break it down, like they're going to edit it, you know, like cut to me, cut to him, cut to the Winnebago. If you do that in sections and chop the speech up in sections, I maybe could pull it off, memorize each section. So I go up to the director and I say, he says, you know, because we had done a great morning shoot. So he's, you know, all jaunty, jolly. Hey, Larry, how you doing? Ready to go? I go, yeah. He goes, okay. So I said, can I just say one thing? Yeah, what is it? I figured out how to shoot this a really cool way. You figured out how to shoot this. Okay, what is it? You know, you could see he was, whoa. All right, what do you want to, how do you want to shoot this? Well, you know, if we cut it up, you know, just like how you cut it in the editing room and then, you know, just do it in sections. No, he says, oh, that. No. We're just going to shoot it. We're just going to do it in one take, a walk and talk. Just get 100 feet down there, walk to the camera. You'll be out in one shot. We'll just do one take and then you go home. And they even had the limo there because we were in the middle of the desert. So the car was waiting for me to get out of there. So everything was set up for a real easy shoot. And we're going to wrap this up and get on with the good stuff. So I said, okay, you know, because I'm not copping to it. She said, go down there. I got 100 feet away. She said, are you ready, Larry? I go, yeah, I'm ready. Because I couldn't memorize it. I mean, I tried for 2 hours. I tried. You know.
Such an important scene, though.
Oh, very important scene. I mean, there's the cop. They're there. It's there. So the cop and them and the Winnebago, it's all one little package if he can get in there. So he says, okay, you ready, Larry? I go, yeah, I'm ready. Okay, and action, Larry. So I knew the first 2 lines. So I walk, you know, so I'm walking and talking towards the camera 100 feet away. So I said the first 2 lines, and then I started to improvise. Legalese, which I've never done, but I remember reading it from 2 hours on the script. There was all legal stuff, why he couldn't go in there, you know. Property and warrants and all this, judge, yeah. So I'm just spewing improv and any kind of legalese and law that I could bring to mind or remember from the just going on. But in my mind, I was like schizophrenic. On the sidecar of my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to be fired when I get to the end of this speech, and I'm prepared for it. So that's where I went. That's my go-to when there's any problems, because I'm a storyteller, not an actor. That's
And it's not a comedic role that you're portraying.
No. So, and I'm not an actor, and it's not funny, and I don't know the lines. So there's a lot of things going on that I have to deal with here. So I just but like I said, as soon as I got on the set, my go-to position mentally was, I'm going to be fired. So this is just a dance to get to the point where he's going to fire me.
Right.
I'm zenned out. I'm cool. I'm not afraid. I can deal with being fired. I've never been fired, but it wasn't bothering me. I was cool. I was okay. I had gotten on the set of Breaking Bad, my big fandom thing. So I had been pleased already. So I started walking and I'm thinking, okay, and then blah, 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 blah. And now he's going to fire me. Boom. And he goes, cut. Okay. So Larry, let's just do one more take and then you can go home, jump in a thing and we're finished. And I go, what? I just memorized that? Holy cow. So he says, well, just go back there and let's do it again. So I'm figuring, wow, well, he's got it in the can. I don't have to worry anymore about lines. I can screw up. I'll try. I mean, but now I'm totally relaxed. He's got it in the can. I've done it. So I just start walking and talking again, doing the exact same thing, blah, blah. Oh, and the script girl came up to me, or he says, you ready, Larry? I go, yeah. So then I see the script girl come. Now it's a woman. It's not a girl. I don't know where they got the girl from, but it's a script woman coming towards me, and a complete adult. And she's got the book and she's got the pencil. And she comes up to me and she says, no, as I see her approaching, now I'm used to script women coming up to me and saying, you missed this word or you missed this line. So I'm okay. So as she's approaching me, I go, jaunty jolly. I go, okay, what did I miss? And she doesn't say a word. She just shows me the page. And every fucking word is circled. Every word. I've never seen in all my years in show business, I have never seen a page like that. And she just pointed to it. I think she's never seen a page like that either. I mean, she was just, and I said, oh. And my first reaction was, oh, well, but I got the gist of it. Right. And she says she wasn't pleased at all. I mean, she didn't respect me at that moment. I mean, her job is to keep the actors on book. And I wasn't doing what she was there to keep me to do. So she was very bothered. And she said, the director wants it verbatim, the words on the page. Very adamant about that. And then I hear the director yell, is everything okay, Larry? And I go, yeah, everything's fine. And then he starts walking towards me. And now I know I'm in a little bit of trouble here because I'm supposed to be walking towards them. Mm-hmm. When they're walking towards me, that's not good, When the people behind the camera are walking towards the actor, there's trouble. Something's wrong. So he gets to me, he said, he keeps on asking me that. Is there any problem here, Larry? I go, no, everything's fine. And then the camera guy, the cinematographer yells, hey, Al, is everything okay? What? Oh, aren't you going to stand by the camera? Right. And he yells back, no, I'm going to walk with my actor. I go, oh man, this is like kindergarten now. I want to go home. I want to go home. He's going to walk with me? Okay, but I'm not copping to it. I'm not. Okay. And I asked him, I said, you're going to walk with me? He goes, yeah. Is that okay? No, that's fine. Because I had given up already. I'm just here until I'm fired and then I'm gone. That's all I was waiting for. So I was, fine. You want to walk with me? It's okay. And then you're going to fire me down there? Cool. You could do it here. No? Okay, fine. So he goes, okay, and action. So I start to walk and I do the exact same thing. And I mean, blah, 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 blah. And I get to the end and then I go, okay, now. And he goes, okay, everybody, Larry's dismissed. Thank you, Larry. Great job, because they clap when anybody goes off the stage,
Right.
not just me. Yeah, okay. Everybody said goodbye. And I hop in the limo, and now I don't even have time to ask what the fuck had just happened. Did I memorize everything? But I did. They just pushed me in a limo, and I went off. So I had to wait for 3 weeks, and I told my friends to watch because I didn't know how they're going to do this or what I had said. I was more curious as to hear what the fuck I had said that he had dismissed me. And when I watched it, I asked my friends, I said, what did you see? Because I figured it out. I said, what did you see? So my friend said, you were walking and talking and keeping the cop out of the Winnebago because Brian and Aaron were in there.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's what the scene was about, but that's not what you saw. What did you see? I want to know what you saw. You were walking and talking, and there was a cop, and then they were inside, and you were keeping the cop out. That's what the scene was, but
right.
You didn't see that. Well, what did we see? What you saw was the director after I said the first two lines and took the first step, he knew I didn't have a clue. He wrote the fucking thing.
Right.
He knew I didn't have a clue. So he let me go because I was saying legal stuff. And
right.
Part of it was the stuff that I got from the script, but I was just, wishing it all over the place. So he had me do it again because he figured, okay, I got maybe 7 things of the 10 things I had to keep them out of there. Maybe I got 4 things of the 10 things I kept them out of there. He just gave me another shot to see if I could hit the other 6 things. And obviously I did, or enough of them. So what you saw, what they saw, what the show was me starting to walk for two steps. That's like 3 seconds. And then they went from the cop to the Winnebago, to inside the Winnebago, to the cop, to inside the Winnebago, to me when I hit a line that fit, and then back to the cop, into the Winnebago, into the cop, to me for another line that I hit, 3 lines. And then they kept it on there, and he edited together all the good stuff. And every time I said something and then I was walking, so I was on camera. I timed it because I watched the show a couple of times. I was on camera for 10 seconds of me. Movies is magic.
Movies is.
That's the name of my friend's production company. Movies is Magic Productions. And that's what came into my mind when I finally used the stopwatch. 9 seconds.
And they brought you back.
10, maybe 10.
Didn't they bring you back for Better Call Saul, or that was a different
And
show?
then they called me back for El Camino. But again, in El Camino, the same thing. Now, that was the first time. So it worked. I was never invited onto Better Call Saul, and I figured that was why.
That's what I meant.
That's what. Okay, so that's why I was never called back. He didn't like that. Vince didn't like me forgetting lines, But it worked. Nobody knew the difference. Okay,
well,
and then I got to give props to the director for using what he had and using it well.
What was the director's name? Do you remember?
I can't remember because I was so involved in the lines and stuff that I just shut him out.
Yeah.
All he was going to say was, "You're fired." That was all. And so I was into my own head then. I was just very nervous.
I was thinking of a like an anecdote that I've either heard you tell me or someone has said about you that I really want you to tell the story, and all I'm just going to do is it's the Scott Beach Man on the Street story from the committee.
Yeah, I mean, which
story is the Man on the Street after President Kennedy was shot?
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
set it up.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me tie up the Vince Gilligan thing.
Okay.
And I'll tell you that. That's a really cool story. The upshot of the entire thing was I don't think I was on Better Call Saul because Vince saw that they had to cobble it together. So I wasn't on that, and then I thought, okay, well, because people would, my fan things, people on Facebook would say, hey, why aren't you on Better Call Saul? I said, well, I think because I don't remember lines very well, and he likes to write big speeches, Vince. Okay, so an El Camino, I wasn't invited either on it, and it was in production already.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a call, so I figured the reason that I wasn't cast when everybody else was cast was he really didn't want me in the film because I had forgotten my lines from Breaking Bad, and he still had that memory.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he was forced to, because everybody was, you got everybody in there from Breaking Bad except Larry Hankin. What the fuck, man?
You're not a burden. I mean, it's just they just have to work with you.
So he wrote me in.
Right.
So he called and he said, hey, can you do this? I didn't have to audition or anything. He said, hey, we need you down here. But I had 2 scenes. One where I'm in the junkyard, which was another 5 lines. It was really easy. It was great. He loved me for that. I mean, he thought I was doing a good job. He loved me. I mean, he thought I was doing a good job. So I thought, okay, the wound is healed. He had, even his producers came up to me and said, hey, you're doing cool. Nice job. In the afternoon, I had to walk around the car.
Right.
And that was hard for me because, again, that was a last minute thing. And so I was walking around the car, and he had to take a break because I couldn't remember the lines. And so he did a very smart thing. He just said, I want to talk to the camera crew. Everybody else take 10-minute break. So that's all he did. And he talked to the camera crew. It was valid because there was a 3-camera shoot on just me walking around. So I said, what are the other 2 cameras for? And he said, they're all on you. I want to cover this. So when he said, I want to take a break to talk to the camera crew, there was a very good reason for it. He wanted to coincide the cameras to you shoot this and you shoot that, but there were all 3 on me, and they were all moving. They were all on dollies. So he was meeting with them. And meanwhile, he said, why don't you go over your lines?
Right.
So I did. So that's all I did. The upshot of it, the great thing about it was that the camera operators, he was just talking to the cinematographer and maybe one of the operators. The other 2 operators watched me just rehearsing, walking around the car. And so they were lining up also their shots because they saw I was doing it the same each time. And then one of the camera operators came up to me, which is never done in the history of movies. This has never been done. A camera operator came up to the actor, me, and said, when you walk around this light here, just pick your head up a little. And I had something in my hand. And he said, and pick that up so I can get a shot of you with that. Just pick a camera operator to direct an actor is a no-no, man. So, and the other camera operator saw that. And he mentioned something to me too.
That's
he
the
said,
next
yeah,
Haskell Wexler, probably.
What?
I think Haskell Wexler used to get in trouble for that kind of shit all the time.
Well, because it's going against what the cinematographer.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's not on the dolly.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's
it was
a lot
really
of
great.
It's a lot of that's a lot of what do you call chutzpah to do that.
But he saw that. But
yes.
I think they both understood what was going on. Larry was forgetting. He's talking to him. Okay. Here's our chance.
Right.
Blah blah blah. Okay, so that's why I think Vince will not hire me again, because he likes to just give you something on the set, or and I'm not good at that.
But that doesn't minimize. If I ran into Vince Gilligan on the street and I said, Larry Hankin, he would probably.
Oh, he'd like me. He'd
be like, oh my God. I mean, that you're however you wanted to just deconstruct the fantasy that all the fans have about like what went into the making
right.
of that scene. And I love it. And it's really fascinating stuff. I love to
we
hear.
were going to go to something else.
Yeah. But wait, what I'm
Oh,
saying,
yeah, good.
what I'm saying is, I think that's fantastic because the end product is what speaks the loudest. It's like that's how people will know you. None of the minutia that you explain. So
Oh,
you're
right.
part of that lasting memory, the most important shit.
Right. And I always say this, and I always forget it. That
Right.
Look, they don't see the bad stuff because that's on the cutting room floor. They have
Thank
no
God.
idea how bad you were.
Right.
But they save the great stuff you did, so you always look good. My takeaway is you can never be bad in a movie because if you're bad, you're on the cutting room floor. And they never see it.
Yes, absolutely. But it is the scenes that are kept in. I mean, that whole story about you being dyslexic and is not something new to general knowledge. There's other actors who are, but you would never know by watching, let's say, Escape from Alcatraz. You had enough time with the lines, you deliver it, but it's also very brave of you to admit to look, I'm the same way. There's a lot of very fundamental things my fourth grade daughter will just know way quicker than I do, when it comes to just learning shit.
Oh,
in a short amount of time.
Well, when I did Escape from Alcatraz, I've been a dyslexic all my life. I mean, and because of that, I got in a lot of trouble. Well, all through my life because of misinterpretation. I read body language wrong. But I'm saying what Vince Gilligan was in his mind after I did. I don't know that. I just assume that because I had to learn other social skills, like reading body language, and sometimes I get it wrong because I don't get the original signal of what you're saying of blah blah blah. So there's different ways I acclimate, I adjust.
That's so interesting that you said that because then you could describe however you're going to answer this question into that last question that I had about the infamous Scott Beach man on the street, JFK assassination.
Exactly.
Right, but you just said something so fascinating that's your training was just in sketch comedy and on stage. It's not like, I don't know if you did King Lear ever. You probably did a lot of mockeries.
I try to read it,
right?
but no, I see that is another thing. Now I can understand a little better. I got just wisdom, I've been around for so long. But I there's a lot of books that I can't read because I don't get it, and I have to read it again. I've read a book that I didn't like, or a couple of pages of it anyway, a second time a couple of years later, or maybe a month later. And I did I get it now. Man, if I read it 2 or 3 times, I'll get it. But dyslexia is really weird as far as, I figured out how it comes in. It comes in, but it doesn't, but it lays, it's like a crossword, not a crossword puzzle, a picture puzzle.
Right.
I get the picture, but it goes in pieces. So to get it out, I have to sit for a long time and reformulate the picture, or else I just give you pieces back. It's the reformulation that is the dyslexia.
But you still got, I mean, you weren't you an engineering student at
industrial design. I had to take, physics and engineering. Well, it got worse as I got older.
Okay.
In the beginning, like in kindergarten, one of the signs was I can sing now, but in kindergarten I couldn't sing.
Really?
I was a silent singer for all the way through public school.
You're kidding.
I couldn't sing. No fucking way. People tried. That was a sign of dyslexia. And now I can, but I worked on it for 4 years. Now I can sing. So it takes time. In other words, the stuff is in there. I just gotta,
Well, when were you performing? I mean, if you were obviously a silent singer, were you in school plays? Did you do that?
Yes, but I remember now that you remind me, I haven't thought of this since it happened. But in a public school play, I had a lead, or not the lead, but public school, you have 4 or 5 leads. I had a important part. This is in public school. This is, lower grades. I'm talking about 7, 8, 9, 10.
Right.
It was somewhere around there. I had a lead in a play, and we did the play, and then I came off the stage, and some other kid's mother came up to me and hollered at me. I mean, like your father would do. How dare you leave my child out of the play? You left my child out of the play. What? Yeah, I had forgotten the whole section of the play. And her son was in that section. So it's been with me all my life.
Dude, I did that. Larry, I did the same thing with an enormous relay race. I just flagged somebody down. Hey man,
it happens. Shit happens.
Shit happens. But
ever since then, and I've had that all through my life, people come up and holler at me for something I did, but I didn't know that I was doing.
Well, didn't you get okay? So since you were attacked by a crazy what's the Kingston Trio? Like, wasn't there a Kingston Trio?
Oh
show?
yeah, the Kingston Trio. Yeah. Well, that's when I was pulled. That's when I quit. Okay, that's when I started to quit being a stand-up.
What happened?
I was on stage. I had been pulled off by the police on an 11 spoonful. I was getting into critical thinking. I was starting to talk about, instead of my family and the movies and hey, did you see this ad and stuff? That bullshit stuff.
Yeah.
I was starting to get into critical thinking stuff like, sex, drugs, rock and roll, religion, disease, cancer, just anything. Now I was just talking about anything. Yeah. And I was being put, and I was losing a lot of, it was either my audience or not my audience. It was just that way. The first thing was, I was opening for Woody Allen and it wasn't going well. And then I would open for somebody else and it would bring down the house. And then, so I started to see I'm getting into areas like Richie Pryor, like George Carlin, like Lenny Bruce, those guys, like Bill Burr is now. So I was into that stuff, but audiences weren't ready. Some audiences weren't ready, and they would call the cops. The cops were pulling me off the stage, just like Lenny Bruce. And I wasn't even into drugs. Yeah.
Did you know Lenny before?
Yeah, I knew Lenny. I mean, he would come to the committee. Everybody came to the committee. So, and he would hang around. He'd talk to us afterwards. So one time I was sitting, eating lunch at an outdoor cafe, and he just walked by and he sat down and we were talking, and he said, and then I finished. So we just walking and talking, talking about comedy and, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I knew him, and and then about 3 or 4 weeks later, he fell out of the hotel window. He was so high. I don't know if you remember that story, but it made all the newspapers.
You were at some of those filmings of his last stand-up bits, right?
I was there for his last filming when the cops it was sad. It was very sad because he was he was finished. He was like a fighter who had been punched but refused to go down, just staggering around the ring. He was like that. I mean, he was still clever. He was still clever. Like he did a thing, but his timing was off, and he was just reading from the law books. He would bring up his law papers from court, and he was just pleading his case with the audience, and it's on film. You can see it. And he would do part of his act, and then he'd take out the papers and he'd say, yeah, but the judge said I can't do that, And then he got off stage and he opened the door and he went outside. There was on one side of the stage, on that side of the stage was the dressing rooms. On this side of the stage was the wall to outside. Right. But there was a fire exit right there. So he got off the stage and just opened the door, and he was talking to people and doing the show. That was pretty funny. Right. Because he was just doing that off the top of his head. He just opened the door. maybe he didn't like what was going on with us because we were kind of sad, and there was a film crew. He went out there. So yeah, I mean, but you were of that same kind of, you were like-minded in terms of absurdity and same ethos. Yeah, I was doing Lenny stuff, kind of. I mean, I was just attempting. I was young, and he was my hero, you know. But so yeah, and then when I want to get to the committee thing with
it's
Scott Beach.
Contextual. There's good
Well,
context.
I don't know about Scott Beach, but yeah, Man on the Street. So
right.
So I would come out. The rule, the way the show went was there was a section called Man on the Street where we take newspaper headlines from the audience. So I was the one who came out to gather the information, and then Scott Beach would run the bit.
Gotcha.
So I would come out on the stage and say, okay, we're going to do a Man on the Street interview. So we're going to improvise off of headlines. What we need is a headline. And 2 days before, we had shut down for the 2 days that Kennedy was assassinated, because everybody, I mean, there was just no way to make people laugh after the president was shot. So we closed down, but we opened up, and Alan said, the director, runner of the thing, the producer said, okay, we're gonna go on tonight. We're gonna go on. So, okay, just be ready. Okay. So we go on. It was they were laughing, as long as we stayed away from politics, and up until then was no politics. So everything was fine. And then I come out there and I say, okay, any newspaper headlines? Any newspaper headlines? Pope elopes. Oh, come on. I'm not taking that. San Francisco coffee is really bad. Those were the exact two. I'll never forget those two calls, the exact two things I got first off. And I just got mad, just like I always get mad. I mean, you just give me something that's stupid, I'm going to get stupid right back at you. I go, hey, the president of the United States was shot 2 days ago. Has anybody read that in the papers? So just, I heard
it's the best story.
326 sphincters snap shut.
Which is loud.
And there was just total. And I said, okay. You don't want to hear that. I get that. All right, so give me another one, all right? Give me anything. So somebody said something like, San Francisco coffee is not good. So, okay, we're going to go with that. And I go backstage. So now Scott Beach comes out. Now he's got to do the bit, So he's got a screwdriver. We always use a screwdriver as the microphone. And, he's holding the shaft and he's talking into the handle. Okay, we're Man on the Street. So they come out and they do. So now everybody is backstage trying to figure out how they're going to, what they're going to improvise out there. Right. Okay, San Francisco coffee is bad. So I can say I drank some. Everybody's thinking backstage. So there's like 5 people and we're going in order. And the first person who's going to go out as I'm sitting there, because I have to go out too, now that I introduced it, I got to be one of the people. As he passes me, he says, I don't know who it was, but he says, you fuck, you ruined it. We're not going to, you expect us to have those people laugh now after that? And he goes out on stage. And the other people say, yeah, Larry, what the fuck did you do, man? And now I think we took a break right after that. That's the half-hour intermission.
You're so fucking things up.
Yeah. So again, the dyslexia, I don't know, I just let fly. So they're all angry at me, and they're all angry. So
I just want to say that that is a very funny line. What you said, I would have been the one guy or 2, 3 people laughing because there's something kind of they're all.
Oh yes, well I thought it was okay, and so did Alan. Yeah, so Alan, so then there's an intermission after. It went okay. The other people, they're funny people, man, so, and then they weren't talking about politics. They were talking about San Francisco coffee. So it was, conversational, social,
We need that,
They did that, and then they had the intermission. So now everybody is in the kitchen, which is what the green room was, the kitchen. You go from the kitchen onto the stage. Everybody's sitting in the kitchen, and Alan says, the director, comes backstage immediately when we say, okay, intermission, we'll be back in 10. Alan immediately runs into the kitchen. Everybody's in there. He says, all right, I want everybody to sit down. I want to talk to you. Whoa, now what? So he sits us all down around the table in there, and he says, now, I was out in the audience when I heard Larry came out and did his little rant. And I was in here before the intermission, when all you people attacked Larry. And you're really vicious in your attacking of what he said out on the stage. Who the fuck do you people think you are, you satirists? Larry was doing the right thing because the audience was fucked and he called them on it. And you called him on it. Right. So you better think about what you're here for. He says, all right, go to lunch. Or your dinner, or whatever the fucking intermission was.
How is Alan?
He stuck up for me, man.
How's
I'll
Alan
never
doing?
forget that. As long as I live, man. It was cool. You know.
How's Alan doing? How is Alan?
What?
I said, how is Alan doing?
Oh, Alan just moved to Malibu. Now, I don't know. He could have moved into a little apartment. His address is Malibu, and he was living in Culver City.
Yeah, we're talking
that's
about
a big
Alan
move.
Meyerson.
I'm talking about this week, 3 weeks ago. He moved to Malibu. I see him once every 6 months, I guess. He's fine. He's retired. I don't know what he's doing.
He's such a lovely guy, and he really.
Oh yeah.
He loves you.
Yeah. I guess so, man. He's always, been friendly. I mean, whenever I see him, we're buddies. He sends me emails every once in a while, wishes me a Merry Christmas or a Happy Hanukkah or whatever.
Well, you started with him. I mean, he didn't poach you?
Well, no, I was in Second City, but he auditioned. No, you're right.
Okay.
I got into Second City because I auditioned for Second City, not with Alan. I got the job, but he was the director who I studied with before they would allow me to go on the stage. You have to go to class. When you're hired by Second City, you just don't go on the stage. You have to go to classes for a couple of weeks.
And your classes were being taught. They were being taught by Viola Spolin, right?
Right. Well, I was taught by Viola Spolin.
Right.
Because I was hired, and then Viola Spolin. You're right. He would teach me in New York. I was hired in New York, so I stayed in New York for a while. And then from his class, I was sent to St. Louis because they opened up a Second City in St. Louis. And we were there only for 3 months, but we were held over for a year. That's how good we were. And so then Paul Sills came down. What?
That was the Compass Players, right?
The Compass Players, but it was, Shepard. But it was part of Second City. They were partners. Paul Sills and him were. So it was the Compass Players. You're right. But Paul Sills came down because it was an offshoot of Second City. And Paul Sills, the director of Second City, who owned the whole thing, came down to St. Louis to watch the show to see who he could get. And he took me and Jack Burns, who were up to Chicago, and then we were in Second City. And then I studied with Viola Spolin.
Yeah, but first of all, I loved when you said that you and Del Close just couldn't stand those classes.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, they were boring because I studied with Alan, and then I had studied with the director down in St. Louis, and I was there for a year. So I'd been improvising for a year when Paul Sills came down and hired us, but he made us take. But I went into the company on an ad hoc basis, kind of like, oh, Larry, get in there, or just tonight, just to break me in slowly. But during the afternoon, I had to take classes with Viola Spolin, and me and Del Close just would, after the classes, we would just vent on her, because we knew all the stuff. I mean, we had been there for years, but still Paul wanted us to be in there. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And then the book came, and she was also writing the book at the time. So she was taking notes about our classes
What was the
and
book?
writing them in the book. And
It's
then
a famous book. What's it called?
It's called Improvisation for the Theater.
Wow.
Yeah, she was writing the book from our classes. So, but we thought it was bullshit, me and Del, and we would talk about that. It was ridiculous. And then one night she asked us, because we would sometimes rehearse on a night off, we would rehearse with her, but it was at night, and we went to this coffee house, and she had she said, I've just gotten the galleys to my new book coming out, and I'd like to read passages to you, to the class, but the class is over. We have to shut down here. So I'm going to this coffee house. Would you come with me and I can read it and, just give me some feedback. So we did that. And Del and I were there, and we felt obligated. We don't want to insult her by just leaving. So we went. So we're sitting there, and she's reading this stuff, and it just seemed, it didn't go in. Again, the dyslexia. I don't know what was going on with Del, but he was kind of aloof. Well, Del was a genius. He knew everything. I've seen and lived with Del and da. He goes to places you can't follow, or you can, but you go, wow, I'm glad I followed. So after it was all over, we dismissed the whole thing. The book is not going to sell.
Right.
And then we went to the committee. The committee went to San Francisco, and the book came out a couple of months after we had opened, and I bought it and I read it, and it was brilliant. And it was everything that she was teaching us in class. But I was a year removed from it, at least, from her teaching. So it was her. It was her personality. That's what wasn't going in.
It'd be great if you read the book and you could find yourself, but not by name. Like, take one student who wasn't paying attention that day.
Well, I mean, she had basically it's a book of what do you call it? Exercises.
Right.
Exercises to loosen up people and let them get a flow. Well, rappers now know what's going on. It's called flow. And she built a theater, and her and Paul Sills, her son, built a theater on flow. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah. So but they have it naturally. They don't have classes. Right. Rappers just either have it or don't.
You got flow,
I have flow. But some people don't. They have to be taught. Like, I've taught people to improvise, because one of the things about being in the committee was you had to teach a class as part of being employed. So one class a week you had to teach. So I taught people how to improvise. People off the street who didn't want to be in the theater, but they just wanted to, learn improv, and they would pay money. But also it was classes so that we could keep a fresh amount of, actors coming in. So it was for the theater that we were doing.
David Shepard?
David Shepard, that was his name. That was St. Louis. That was the Compass Players.
What do you remember about him? Because I knew him in later years.
Oh, well, I didn't know much about him. He, he would teach when we were rehearsing to go down there to St. Louis. He would be running the classes, but he seemed very vapid, very milquetoast. I think it was, he was very shy. He was very, very quiet. I couldn't get to know him. I'm kind of hung up socially, and so I guess was he. So
right,
it was, he would just. I would listen to him. I thought he knew what he was doing. I mean, he had started the theater, and I knew that. So I just trusted. I wasn't to the point of rejecting what I didn't understand yet.
Exactly.
I was still a little sane.
But with all this stuff, I'm sure you've always tried to. Have you tried to reinvent yourself after even that formidable, now I hate to use the word iconic, but this amazing period with the committee, and that's one form that obviously doing regular television now isn't entirely informed by the committee experience. I mean, are you always trying to up your game?
Well, yeah. But now I'm always trying. I'm always trying to learn to be better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I know how to do. I mean, seriously, if I'm bad, I don't think I'm bad.
Right.
My go-to is I can do it better next time. Yeah, I'll study up on that. It's just I don't know where that comes from. Nobody ever taught me that. That's just I think it's just in defense of the. It's a way around dyslexia. In other words, this is a given. So there's nothing I can do about it. You can't cure dyslexia. You can just deal with it and have workarounds.
Are you happy? Are you happy with the two?
What?
Are you happy with the two scripts that you've written in the last year?
Oh, I think they're brilliant. I really do, because I worked on them a long, long time. I think they're well. I've gotten the reason that I think it's brilliant, not because I think it's brilliant. I don't know if I'm brilliant or not. I have no idea. I have no self-judgmental thing. I can't, not judgmental. I have no self-judging. It's hard for me to judge with. But I've gotten feedback. I've sent it to festivals. They've been returned to me in festivals and gotten rave reviews. But there's certain things I have to change. Like the opening 10 pages is very important in screenplays. And I'm weak on, because it's hard for me to get started. In all my screenplays, all my what do you call it? My feedback. All my feedback is the beginning is weak. That's mainly what people say. The beginning is weak. If you just fix the beginning, and then once in a while, you got to tie up a lot of loose ends at the end. But generally from about page 20 to about page 85, it's just great because I'm in the story. It's getting into it and then tying it up.
I love it. That's great. Well, I'm thrilled that you even sat and talked to me today. I mean, we've been talking. I do like to call myself your unofficial biographer.
Yeah, you're my biographer. Yeah. Your biographer is on my page. It still is. It's the official biography.
And there's so much.
You also come up with stuff that nobody else comes up with. Even in this interview, you've asked me stuff nobody has asked me.
Oh,
weird.
Well,
I don't know where you get this stuff from. Like Del Close, like the stuff about Del Close, about Viola Spolin. I mean, that about St. Louis, that offshoot.
That's why I get the big bucks.
What?
Not really. I said that's why I make the big bucks.
Oh, that's what it makes.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you and me both, right?
Exactly. Well, listen, man, you're what you might not.
Also, the way you comb your hair. I like the way you comb your hair.
Oh, today? Well, what's left of it, but no, I was going to say, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm just thrilled to know you, and let's talk again. All right.
Oh man, yeah, sure. Anytime, man. So far, we're 2 for 2.
Please, take care of yourself, and wear a mask, but don't. You can talk to anyone you want on the street if you want.
No, but I'm very careful. I got white hair. Hey, that's a dead giveaway.
Happy New Year, buddy.
Giveaway. Yeah. Okay. Take it easy, man.